الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, this is the 9th lecture of شرح نزهة النظر of الإمام الحافظ بن حجر رحمه الله. And to الحديث المقلوب. If the conflict is by changing the position of the names, by making the father the name of the son and the son the name of the father, the sanad, sometimes it's in the midst. And Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah has a book called رافع الارتياب في المقلوب من الأسماء والألقاب. That means it shows you the names that are flipped over and the chains, inside the chains or inside the text. So al-maqlub can be maqlub text, that means flipping over the text, or flipping over the chain. In Muslim, that 7 guys will be under the shade of Allah's throne in the Judgment Day. He said that one who gives a charity, that his left hand doesn't know what did his right hand give. So normally you give charities by your right hand, but someone flipped it over and said until his right hand doesn't know what his left hand gave. So that's flipped over. Actually, trustworthy, it's not a big deal. The name is flipped over and one of them is trustworthy and the other is not. So in this case, you can make hadith that is an authentic hadith, a weak hadith, it'll be flipped over, and vice versa. An authentic, a weak hadith would be considered as an authentic hadith. You see? So this is the problem of this kind of hadith. There are other examples that scholars mentioned in their books, but he just mentioned this kind of أسانيد. المزيد في متصل الأسانيد says, or a narrator inside the chain. More neat in memory and in knowledge. That means adding something inside a continuous chain. Adding something in a continuous chain That is called al-mazid fi muttasil asanid. Like people here, actually, Al-Hafid ibn Hajar didn't give any examples, subhanAllah. Narration of Ibn al-Mubarak, he said, حدثنا سفيان عن عبد الرحمن بن يزيد حدثني بسر قال حدثني بسر قال سمعت واثلة يقول سمعت أبا مرثد يقول سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا تجلسوا على القبور ولا تصلوا إليها. So the addition here, or this hadith, was narrated from another chain, from al-Mubarak, and by Abdurrahman bin Yazid, and some of it, some of the narrations or some of the roots mention that there is another chain or another root by Abdurrahman bin Yazid heard directly from Wathila. بسر قال بسر حدثني بسر بن عبيد الله. So here he says سمعت أبا إدريس سمعت واثلة. That's an addition. But of course this kind of chain, wait a second please. Yes, this kind of all other additions that we mentioned before, which will be accepted if the narrator is neat and there is what supports his opinion, and it won't be accepted if it's it won't be accepted if it's from a weak guy, weak narrator. Wait, that means briefing the hadith or summarizing the hadith. So he says here, summarizing the hadith, the majority of scholars agree about that. But that needs some conditions. Who summarizes it has to be a scholar. Why? Because he knows that what he summarized is the same meaning of the whole text. Omits some words, he didn't omit the meaning. Who does that summarizes the hadith and omits what it's part of the hadith, that would change the whole meaning. Are you allowed to omit? You are allowed to omit any additional information that won't affect the whole text. And that's what Imam Al-Bukhari used to do in his narrations, in his Sahih. His way is different from the way of Muslim, where he keeps on cutting the hadith and taking only part of the text that he needs. Where Muslim, somebody's mic on. Brother Adam Dadu, your mic is on. And it's making some noise. Okay? Don't know what he's ignorant. So he might omit something that is part of the narration that is very important. Now, narrating the hadith by meaning, and the same thing is by translating the text, because translating the text is saying it in other words, but by another language. But narrating it by the meaning, it's the same language but other words. All scholars agree that we are. There's a well known, the conflict between scholars, but the majority of scholars agree that we are allowed to mention the hadith in our words. The strongest evidence about that, or proofs about that, is that all scholars agree that we're allowed to translate the Sharia to non-Arabs in their languages. So if we are allowed to transfer so what is the problem that we can transfer it from these words to another word? So if translation is accepted and permissible, so changing the words to other words that are more easier is permissible too. Some say no, you're allowed just to change words, but not change the whole way of speaking. Some say that you are allowed just to change a word that you forgot it, so you mention it in your words. Some say no, it is only permissible for people who memorize the hadith, so he forgot the words, so he mentioned it in his same meaning, in the same meaning, because it's still stuck in his head. So he's allowed to translate it because that would be beneficial for people. But if he knows the hadith properly, so he's not supposed to do that. This is all about the permission of translating or will be better, and that's what has to do. Al-Qadi Iyad rahimahullah says this kind of thing, narrating the hadith by meaning, so that we shut the door and cut the way who don't understand or don't have the right meaning. And that happened a lot in the ancient days and later on. And that caused lots of problems and conflicts in the hadith. So nowadays, alhamdulillah, where we have all the hadith in the books, the computer, you can mention any hadith that you want, and that you can find the hadith that you want wherever it is. So why should you narrate by the meaning unless you are given a speech and you didn't memorize the text? But for somebody writing something, he has to mention the hadith as it is, and even more than that, he has to mention its where is it narrated and its authenticity. غريب الحديث. غريب الحديث known, that is called غريب الحديث. So what is Gharib al-Hadith? Are the meanings of the words, sorry, the meanings of the words. Sometimes there are some difficult words that are some vocabularies that aren't used a lot. So we need books like dictionaries and stuff like that that mention these words. Like what? Like the book of Abi Ubaid al-Qasim al-Salam, which is called Gharib al-Hadith, or which is called Gharib al-Hadith. And this Abu Ubaid was a from Herat, from Afghanistan, and then he went to Baghdad. He says it's not classified in a proper way. And Shaykh Muwaffaq al-Din ibn Qudama, Imam ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, and classified it by the alphabetical way. And of Ibn Qudama, is it published or not published? I never heard about it. And the best book is the book of Abi Ubaid al-Harawi. This is another guy. He's a linguistic scholar. He's originally from Herat too. And is called Abu Ubaid, but his name is not the same name. His name is Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Rahman. Okay, this is my right hand, just because the picture is flipped over. Look, this is Abu Ubaid al-Harawi, passed in the year 401. And he has a book called Al-Gharibain, Kitab al-Gharibain. In the Quran and in the Hadith. Quran and Hadith. And Hafid Abu Musa al-Madini, this book. So he added to it, and he discussed with the author about other things. Az-Zamakhshari, well-known scholar, he's Mu'tazili. He has a book called Al-Fa'iq. It says very beautiful in its classification. He classified it in a good way. Zamakhshari, his belief, he passed in the year 581. He has the well-known commentary on the Quran called Al-Kashaf. Then Majduddin Ibn al-Athir and put them in one book, which is classified in a beautiful way, and it's the best book, called An-Nihayatu fi Gharib al-Hadith. An-Nihaya, you say An-Nihaya Ibn al-Athir. And Ibn al-Athir that wrote the book called Al-Kamil. That is this one. And a muhaddith that wrote Jami' al-Usul. Every one of them wrote something that is important for all Muslims. He says even though this book still has something to add to it. We don't know what is the meaning of what does the Prophet ﷺ want to say. So actually the word is known, but what is the whole meaning? We need the books that give us the meaning of the words of the hadith of Sunnah. Like lots of books that were written to comment on the hadith. He says like Mushkil Athar, Sharh Mushkil Athar of Imam al-Tahawi, and معالم السنن of Imam al-Khattabi, and التمهيد والاستذكار لابن عبد البر, and فتح الباري for the author. فتح الباري شرح صحيح البخاري of Imam Hafiz ibn Hajar, and the commentary on Muslim, and all these commentaries on the books of Sunnah. Sunnah. الجهالة, there is a name that is unknown. It's either unknown because you don't know, is this guy Allah, was he, did he exist, or he never existed, or you know that he existed but you don't know anything about his life, or you know his name but you don't know anything about his trustworthy. And the reason of that is that the author or the narrator can have several names or nicknames. His nickname, his uh, and he doesn't know his nickname, and you mention him to him, he says, I don't know this guy that you're talking about. He's not known. He's not known with that name or that nickname. الموضح لأوهام الجمع والتفريق. And before that, الحافظ عبد الغني ibn Sa'id al-Misri al-Azdi, he wrote a book called الأسماء المبهمة في الأنباء المحكمة. It's published. Kinds of from these examples, Muhammad ibn Sa'ib ibn Bishr al-Kalbi, or Muhammad ibn Bishr, and some call him Abu Nadr, and some Abu Sa'id. Lots of people didn't know who this guy is and got confused. Or actually, that is one person, but every time he has a nickname. Sometimes the narrator rarely narrates. So few people who took knowledge from him, so he's not known. Dan, that means the one who has only one narration or something like that. Or only one person that narrated from him. Muslim has a book like that, and Hassan ibn Sufyan has a book like that too. فيه المبهمات, like the book of ولي الدين العراقي رحمه الله, المستفاد من مبهمات المتن والإسناد. Because normally the narrators are trustworthy until we have an evidence or a proof that they're not like that. Some said no. And considering somebody as a trustworthy person and saying that that's the origin, that's not true. Majority of people are not trustworthy. And few people are trustworthy who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Case, if we said قال رجل, a man said, or a woman said, this, we don't know who this guy is. His name is so and so, but we don't have only one person that narrated from him. From one person. So this is called Majhul al-Ain. If another scholar says that he's thiqa, he's trustworthy, we can follow him. But if he doesn't, we don't have any evidence about that, he's considered as majhul, and we reject his riwayah. Okay? Who? And no one said that he's trustworthy. So this is called mastur al-hal or majhul al-hal. The first one is called majhul al-ain. He is all unknown. But this one is known, but we don't know, is he trustworthy or not trustworthy? Accepted his narration, but the majority rejected that narration. Accepted that narration. Narration. The majority did not accept that narration. We don't reject it totally, nor accept it totally. Or if there is an other chain that supports this chain. رواية المبتدئ. The narration of the innovator, is it accepted or not accepted? رواية المبتدئ. It says here that makes him apostate from Islam, or a bid'ah that doesn't make him apostate from Islam, but he is considered as a rebellion, fasiq. So the first one, the majority of scholars reject it. It's not accepted. How can you say that he's not a Muslim and then accept his narration? What is that? It's like if he says something he says here, some say it's rejected totally. Is from a group that believes that they are allowed to lie reject his narration. That is forbidden in their religion. We're supposed to accept their narration. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar opinion is that we don't reject all whom we claim that they apostate with their innovation. Because every group claims that the other group is an innovator. And it might exaggerate and call it as a kuffar. Without any conditions, that would make us claim that all the groups are kuffar. Accepted opinion is that the one that rejects anything that is mutawatir, everybody knows it, it's obvious, like eating pork, it's obvious that Muslims don't eat pork. That Muslims are not allowed to fornicate. Or like drinking wine, or all these sins that are known. If anybody says that they are opinion of rejecting something that is known in Sharia. He is neat in narrating. He fears Allah. He's pious. So what's the matter that we accept his narration? And there are lots of scholars like that. Lots of narrators, even in Bukhari and Muslim, are like that. Some of them are Shia, some of them are Khawarij, some of them are Murji'a, Qadiyya. That's a lot. If we reject all those, we won't have only few narrators. Because what do you want from this narrator? You want him to be trustworthy, and then when he narrates a hadith, you feel that he is not lying on the Prophet ﷺ, and that what he transferred to you is true. This is what we need. Asking him for his opinion. We are asking him to narrate for us. Who has an idea, an innovation that does not affect his belief. Some scholars reject these kinds of narrators. But this how says this is so far. And they say that if we narrate from him, that means it's like we are making him high, that people will come to him and respect him. And then that would make them agree about his narration. Narrator that has an innovation that does not affect his belief. His narration is accepted, especially if he's pious and he doesn't lie and he's. If we say that this narrator, because he has an innovation, we have to reject his opinion. Okay. Guys, I have to wait a second. I'm losing. Wait a second. Okay. Okay. And the innovators' narrations, because that we don't want to put them in a high rank. Narration that we have two narrators, a Sunni and an innovator. We are supposed to accept their narrations. Believe that they are allowed to lie. And you have Shafi'i, Abu Thawr, and some say he is allowed. We are allowed to narrate from this innovator, unless he is not a preacher. He preaches for his innovation, because that might make him twist the words of the hadith to be close to his bid'ah, his innovation. And Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar said that this is the most accepted opinion. Bad to say that all scholars agreed to accept the narration of the innovator that doesn't preach, without making or giving these details that we just mentioned right now. Yes, the majority accepts the narration of the one who's not the non-preacher, but except if he narrates something that supports his innovation, so that his narration is rejected according to the most accepted opinion. And this is what Hafiz Abu Ishaq Juzajani, Abu Ishaq Ibrahim ibn Yaqub al-Juzajani, he agreed about. And the Nasa'i in his book Ma'rifatul Rijal. So he said in his book Ma'rifatul Rijal, and This is the Jawzajani. And Jawzajan is a city in Afghanistan nowadays. So he's originally from there, but actually he's from Syria. He's originally from Afghanistan, but he was in Syria. So he said, and some of them are far from the truth. He's an honest guy. So what are we going to do with this guy? We take his hadith that strengthens his innovation. Because the thing that we rejected his narration for follow me on the Facebook. It's good. The Facebook is good actually. Try to follow me on the Facebook. Read my strange item. Well, actually, it's working good. So, but this is actually, let me tell you something very important. The narrator is a trustworthy guy. Allah, and he's a pious guy. And he believes that what you claim, it's an innovation, he believes that it's the Sunnah. So why should you reject his narration? Where actually he believes that he's on the Sunnah. Shall we say that even the Sunni can twist the meaning to support his Sunnah? And that happened. We have some untrustworthy narrators. They are Sunnis, and they fabricated some ahadith to suit their belief. Some ahadith that praise Abu Bakr and Umar, some ahadith, the innovators, some, the same thing. If somebody's a Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanafi, or Hanbali, or whatever, shall we say that we're not allowed to accept his narration as long as he still follows a madhab? Nobody says that. So actually, and what we see in the books of the Imams like Bukhari and others, they narrate from everyone. Bukhari narrate from Shia, Khawarij, Nawasib. More than that, Al-Jawzajani himself is a Nasibi. Jawzajani is a Nasibi. That's why they say, don't take from him anything, any criticize that he criticizes the people of Kufa, because most of them are Shia, and he keeps on attacking them. And he is, far from, he's not even, he doesn't attack them for Sunnah, he attacks them and exaggerates to talk about Ali radiallahu anhu. So he's not Asibi. And Imam Nasa'i, he is accused to have. So actually, the opinion that says that any narrator that is trustworthy and is just and pious, we are allowed to take his narration, no matter what belief he used to believe. الشاذ again. So here the 10th reason to reject a hadith is or to reject a narrator is that he doesn't memorize properly. Doesn't memorize properly, we reject his narration. And here, if we have a narrator sometimes makes lots of mistakes, but he's not weak. He's not called as a weak guy. No. If he has this problem always in any narration that he has, so it's called shadh according to some scholars. Or if he is normally a good memorizer, but maybe because he became old, or because he lost his eyes, so he can't read, or because his books got burned, or whatever. Someone who was proper, all of a sudden he flipped over and he lost his memory. Like Alzheimer, he had Alzheimer when he became old. This is so we are in this case, or he used to have a book to read from and he lost the book, he got burnt, or somebody ruined his book, or whatever. So if we don't have any dates and we don't know who narrated before and who narrated after, we have to stop. But if we know the dates and we know who narrated before he got flipped over, and after that, that solves the problem, as we accept the narration of the ones who narrate from before his mind got lost, and we reject the other narrations. Memorize properly. And we have another chain that supports what is said in that house, or what is said in that hadith. In this case, in this case, the new narration supports the old narration and gives them both a strength. And we talked about it. So anybody who is mukhtalat and has another narration that supports what he said, that means the narration is proper. Or he's mastur al-hal, we don't know who he is. And then we have another